Assault stop, nonviolent defense system, combat bred. The young years of my life were saturated with countless street fights and brawls against older men, sometimes in multiples. I learned how to fight well, fast, by taking the minimal amount of my martial arts training that I was blessed to receive and putting my heart and soul into every technique so I could use them in real combat, not in a training center or tournament. And it worked. My martial arts abilities developed on a heightened level that could not be taught or learned in any safe training center. I dominated all who I fought. Achieving combat superiority. It wasn't long before I began to recognize that I no longer had to fight hard to defeat my angered, explosive, uncoordinated street opponents. Their strength was frail to me and their movements slow motion. It was easy for me to defeat them while barely trying. So easy that I one day recognized that I could probably beat them without trying at all. I could let them beat themselves as they tried to beat me. I could humiliate them worse if I treat them like a 10-year-old child than I would if I beat the crap out of them. Allowing them to defeat themselves fighting me would visibly demonstrate my combat superiority over their combat inferiority. Using passive to beat aggressive. The formula to defeat my violent attackers without fighting them was rooted in my movement, footwork, blocks, and evades, or what is known as defense. Defense is a tactic that is usually abandoned or forgotten during a fight due to anger, desperation, and fear. In a fight, both participants are usually blind with anger and only focused on knocking the crap out of their opponent with everything that they have as fast as they can. Big mistake in combat. Weakness of anger. The combat discipline of the untrained street fighter is ego and rage. They lack calm, humbleness, and patience to strategically use defensive maneuvers to counter or evade the outrageous swings of their opponent. Neither do they have the emotional intellect to humbly dodge or block a crushing blow from their opponent. They instead try to dominate with strength, anger, and arrogance. Too arrogant to defend. Untrained street fighters view the person who has to defend against their blows as weak, and they believe that it would be weak of them to ever have to defend against the attacks of an opponent. They have no respect, appreciation, or interest in defending. They know absolutely nothing about it, and that is more than they want to know. And it is this mindset that allows the trained combatant to defeat the overzealous, untrained fighter without ever having to attack him or her back. The trained fighter will use defense to neutralize and make every aggressive attempt of the untrained fighter inadequate, futile, and useless, leading to the shattering of the untrained fighter's ego, fatiguing of his body, and embarrassment of his mind. The underestimated advantage. Defense is to the trained fighter what the shell is to the turtle. It is what can be relied on when all else fails. I decided to bring defense up from the back of lines of retreat to the front lines to engage, and it has proven repetitively to be highly effective. So effective that I formulated the idea into a structured combat style that anyone can learn and use. Assault stop. Elaborating on that paragraph there, if you ever watch my fights, I mean, one time a friend of mine watched all my fights and they studied my fights. He became a student and a fighter. And he said, I noticed that you never waste any strikes. Whenever you punch or kick, it lands. And it's usually effective. You don't just throw a bunch of stuff. You know, how do you do that? I said, well, first of all, it's because of my defense. If you pay attention, I protect first. And then once the person starts wearing down, I make my attack. It creates opening. My defense creates the opening so I can fire my sniper shot. I don't waste bullets. Okay? So that kind of, you can see the truth in my background by watching the video. I always say that if somebody's a true combatant and they fight and they telling you should listen to them, they should have put it out there and put their butt on the line and fought to prove it. And you should be able to find those videos. They should be everywhere. Okay. Defense from illegal and legal attackers. Assault stop was created to provide reliable protection for persons who are subjected to rules or laws that punish the use of fighting force to defend against the violent attack of another person. Assault stop protects citizens from criminals and predators, and it protects citizens from all disciplinary and legal repercussions for fighting, because assault stop legally does not fall under the definition of fighting. The definition of fighting right here. Fight. Take part in a violent struggle involving the exchange of physical blows or the use of weapons. Tested and proven truth. Assault stop uses the top combat-proven reliable blocks, evades, escapes, reverses, and subdues that I myself, along with thousands of other professional MMA fighters, trusted and relied on in competition to protect ourselves from skull and bone-breaking hits. There is no better tested and proven hand-to-hand defense system in the world than this one. Elaborating on that paragraph, these defenses, these blocks, these evades, these grabs, all this stuff comes straight from the cage, straight from the ring, straight from the streets, bodyguard situations. So there is nothing out there that proves it daily, hourly. Right now, somebody's fighting an MMA fight and they're using these blocks and this protection to survive the rounds and make it to the win or the loss, wherever they're going to go to. So this is as good as it gets. And it's the truth. You can look it up. This is not me just standing there talking. This is not choreographed stuff. This is the real deal. And this is what I wanted to give to the world to protect themselves and defend themselves. And everyone should know it. And every art should have this in their arsenal just in case whatever they're trying to use doesn't work. Just like that's what MMA is. MMA is not against single discipline martial arts. It is the mixture of single discipline martial arts. So it has a respect towards them all. But where this martial art has a weakness, such as karate may have a weakness of being taken down to the ground and getting pounded on, so MMA inducts wrestling so that they have a sprawl, and then if they end up on the ground, it inducts jiu-jitsu so that they can fight on the ground. So that's what this is all about. This is as good as it gets, and it's a fact that is proven and tested daily, okay? So don't get mad at me at the truth. Legally not fighting. The techniques of assault stop are non-violent, non-attacking methods designed to quickly shut down aggressive attacks without a violent response or intentional harm. The user of assault stop maintains control while gaining control of his uncontrollable attacker. The one who uses assault stop to defend against a violent attack cannot be disciplined or charged by an authority for fighting. Elaborating on that, they cannot righteously and justly be charged. Now, anybody can charge anybody with anything. Just like I can sue you for looking at me and you intimidated me. And when it gets to court, they're going to say, this is frivolous. Get this crap out of here. Get out of my courtroom. Don't let me see you here again. Okay, so anybody can, if you got some administration that's against you or there's a hothead, or an authority that is, they can always arrest you for it or whatever. When you go to court, when you go to against the board, when you get to be heard, then that definition of what a fight is comes out. They cannot call that fighting. Your ultimate weapon is you. The most valued skill and tactic of combatives and the martial arts is the use of empty hands to defend oneself. Empty hand combat is honored even above weapon use. The reason behind this is because empty hands are the sole defense tools that accompany us everywhere. They will never be denied, confiscated, seized, or banned. They require no loading, chambering, sharpening, or even drawing to use. They are the most covert weapons in the world because everyone has hands, elbows, and feet, but no one can decipher the difference between a pair of harmless limbs or lethal limbs. Life advantaging skill. The most powerful trait that the superior fighter carries is the ability to easily defeat most, if not all, people that he or she encounters. This advantage allows the superior combatant to always be in control of the outcome of almost any confrontation that he or she gets in. Confrontations and situations will always go his way because he can defeat everyone else in mankind's last form of communication, fighting. No one will be able to convince or intimidate him to do what they want him to do if he or she does not want to do it. No one can hold leverage over the superior combatant because he only needs to make the decision, if bothered by others, to push the situation into combat, and he easily wins. Peace from the most dangerous. As dominating as this may sound to you, I encourage you that it is not. In fact, the superior combatant is exactly who you should want to hold the power that determines who wins, loses, lives, or dies in every room that he visits. That's because It requires years of dedication, sacrifice, studying, discipline, tolerance, self-control, humbleness, service, and selflessness for any person to reach the physical development and mental steadiness to be a superior combatant. These traits form an immovable character that has evolved from arrogance, selfishness, cruelty, hate, fear, confusion, and non-productive reacting. This promises the chance of a more positive outcome when the supreme combatant is the one deciding the fate of all involved. Protection for more than yourself. Mastery of assault stop anoints you control over uncontrollable individuals. The development of self-defense combatives expertise does not make you a danger to others. It instead makes you an asset to all of humanity because you have the ability to protect them from those who they cannot protect themselves from. Under the combatant's umbrella. All persons in the presence of the superior combatant are protected at that moment by his reputation and abilities to easily defeat the ones who they all deeply fear. The self-defense combat expert provides an umbrella of protection that shields even strangers who surround and don't know him. The self-defense combat expert is the personal protection insurance policy of mankind. Elaborating on that paragraph, I remember one time going over to a buddy's house to watch the UFC with him. He was just having a UFC party. And well, his party, he had these knuckleheads who always started fights. They were known to start fights. They were pumping up that they were going to start all these fights. And they heard that there was this fighter there. All right, they didn't explain exactly who I was, anything like that. And so they all came rushing over, all just knuckleheads, big guys too. And they were waiting. And I was in the back, using the bathroom. I came out and I walked in the room and I noticed it was quiet. And I see these guys, kind of mad dog, and I looked at him. Hey, what's up, guys? I used the power high. What's happening, man? How you doing, Jermaine Andre? Nice to meet you. Blah, blah, blah. And I showed the initiative that I'm not afraid of you or afraid of this room, anybody in here, and neither am I threatening or intimidating you. And of course, they kind of took to it. Yeah, how you doing? And then somebody, yeah, that's Jermaine Andre. He fought in the UFC, this and that, da da da. And you see these guys, and they're like, oh crap. And they're like, oh, you fought in the UFC? I said, yeah, I fought in that. I said it was back in the day when it was first kind of starting. I said, so I fought in other leagues that were equal to the UFC at that time, and I was doing Muay Thai and this and that. That's what we started talking about my fight career, where you can watch all these tough guys who were troublemakers, who always started fights with everybody, turn into children. Put it in my hands. Oh man, this. It turned into conversations. Next thing you know, phone numbers were exchanged. Well, later my friend told me, well, yeah, they heard you going to be here, and they were all talking about they were going to kick your butt, and he was going to challenge you, and this guy was going to challenge you, and if you didn't fight him, they all were going to jump you, and just because they just want to beat down a fighter. And when they saw you, it's just like they watched a tiger walk in the room. But the whole fact of what I'm saying there is that would have been a fight that would have started. There were women there, there were girls there were people there who don't want to fight. And if this fight would have started in this guy's house, we would have destroyed that house. We would have hurt innocent people, everything. But because they knew I could fight, and they knew I was a threat to them if they chose to attack me, that shut them down, and it protected everybody in there, including myself, including them, kept me from kicking the crap out of them, including the owner of the house and his guests. So that elaborates a little bit on that chapter, that paragraph. Becoming unattackable. The human body can break boards, bricks, ice, and all types of things that no one would have ever thought it could until it did it. The body of a true martial arts combatant is so sturdy, healthy, and solid that the average person will injure himself when striking a martial artist. With the correct program, work ethic, commitment, and direction, just about any person can enhance his body and mind to the point where violence is no longer a necessity for self-defense, because the attackers will harm themselves through their attack on the martial artist. Assault Stop cultivates this heightened level of human development. Elaborate on that paragraph. As Muay Thai we're known for turning our body into just an indestructible weapon. We beat ourselves, we beat each other to the point where when we enter a fight, we don't care about getting hit. In fact, we enjoy being hit. We kick shin to shin, bone to bone. We kick the elbows with our shin bones. We hit the elbows with our knees, all the places everybody else avoid. We take punches in the forehead, we take them in the face. Our bodies are just so tough and strong. That's incredible. And to give you a good story, one time when I was working as security at the haunted houses in St. Louis, the Darkness Haunted House, that's a ad for Darkness. They're not paying me for that. They're just a great place. I work for them. It's a great time working there. And they are great. You ever in St. Louis, go to Darkness. It's an awesome haunted house. But you're not supposed to run in a haunted house. And some teens were coming through. They, older teens, probably high school. And I was walking through, and I had my flashlight off, because you're not really supposed to turn your flashlight on, because it messes up the tone of the haunted house, messes up the strobe lights, etc. So I was walking through with my crew, had a few guys behind me. I was the head of security, and I'm walking through, and I hear the stomping, and then boom, I just felt this hard hit in the face. Now, of course, it knocked me back probably half a step, and I kind of went to turn my light on, and there's this kid, probably, 10th, 11th grader, laying on the ground, and his face is bleeding. He's like, oh my God, oh, what happened, what happened? And I help him out, say, you just running? And he's like, yeah, I just ran into the wall. I said, no, you ran into me. And he's like, oh my God, it was like I hit a wall. You didn't even move, and of course I wasn't even injured anywhere. Of course we took care of it and everything, told him don't run again, although you got kicked out, but that's how a martial artist's body is. When you develop that, you even develop an aura that makes you so tough that it's like, you're just as tough like a boar or like a bull. Somebody runs into you, bing, they're bouncing off you like a tank. They attack you and start hitting you. You cover and protect. Everything is, their attacks are futile. It's useless, all right? The God-made weapon. It is shameful for us to respect and rely only on man-made weapons for our safety while ignoring the superhuman potential of our own bodies. If you focus on the construction and control of your body and mind above all else, you will always possess heightened abilities that will allow you to dominate and seize control of any attacker without having to hope and depend on the extreme advantages of a machine to confidently engage and defeat another human being. Elaborating on that paragraph, guns are great, knives are great, pepper spray is great, all those things are advantages, but you should not have to rely on that to defend yourself. You should be able to use your hand. This right here can be just as lethal as a bullet. And I'm not talking about mine are, of course, but yours can too, just by being trained. So just understanding, and that's not what assault stop's about. The assault stop's not about that, but I'm teaching you about the human body. And so even defending yourself, you can create yourself, or you can defend yourself with all of this that was given to you by God, where no matter what, if you get everything taken from you, you are still just as lethal as before, or you can still protect yourself like you could before. So the human body can be developed just as powerful as any weapon that's out there, okay? Learn more than you know. Here are some basic assault stop defensive techniques with pictures to aid you in giving you a visual. There are many more assault stop techniques, and you definitely will develop far better with in-person training than you could from a book or even video. However, the lessons in this book and on the videos will make you 5 times better than you were before you studied them. Much of my initial martial arts training during my early childhood came from mocking moves from books and videos, and even though many of the techniques look nothing like the actual technique, they equipped me to dominate in street fights against everyone. Get virtual lessons in this book. The hyperlinks at the end of each technique will take you to an online instructional video on the specified technique for no additional charge. Please be sure to view the videos to get a clearer explanation on how to execute the techniques. And if you own, elaborating on that chapter, if you own the Assault Stop book, you've purchased it, send your receipt in, go to my website, jermainealger.com, and send the receipt in, and we'll send a link where you can connect, and we'll open you up where you can connect to these videos for free. And we'll also send you the PDF file of Inside Edge, where you can go right there, you can read from your tablet or your phone, and you can boop, click it, and it'll take you straight to the training video at the end of each chapter.